with all kinds of interstellar activity, it seems odd that critics and skeptics still maintain that there is nothing out there except empty space. But then critics and skeptics have been known to be wrong. Prior to Christopher Columbus, the experts believed the world was flat. And even in a more sophisticated world, many skeptics still didn't get it. Too many of them, even to count, stated that it was ridiculous to suggest that television waves could produce a picture. Historically, someone inevitably comes along to puncture the balloon of scholarly consensus. Given that reality, could it be that we've been looking for heaven in the wrong place? Is it possible that answers about heaven can be found in a physics class? Which brings us to a point in our investigation few people ever get to, simply because the language of physics is often difficult to understand. But according to Dr. Morris, there are physicists who are attempting to bring the discussion down to a more understandable level.
In England today, a group of scientists, mathematicians, and university professors are working with subatomic particles and mathematical calculations, which they believe could confirm that so-called deceased entities, although composed of different atomic components, exist in and share the same space with this material world.
Perhaps the most important question is, can these scientists, through physics, confirm the existence of the individual soul?
I believe there is proof that the soul exists. I think quantum physics itself indicates the existence of another realm, a realm that we might say is the realm of the soul. And it indicates that consciousness itself is something outside of just the mere body.
Well, that certainly is an interesting concept, and it may challenge some of our traditional thinking. But the important question is, does it square with biblical truth? How does the Bible correlate with the new physics? Can it be reconciled with a scientific view? Interestingly, Dr. Sheets thinks it can.
Particle physics tells us that there are possibly 11 different dimensions. When Jesus appeared to his disciples, in Luke chapter 24, he appeared to them in a closed-up room, and yet he had flesh and he had bone. He could eat and drink. How did he do that? Well, we are told that that would occur in the 6th dimension. So evidently, in a glorified body, dimensions are increased. There's a release from our dimensions now of length, breadth, and height, and dimensions are multiplied. And we are told that Jesus appearing to his disciples in a closed-up room would happen in the 6th dimension. From the 6th dimension, you could eat an orange from the inside out.
It seems that the Bible and science, much to the consternation of some skeptics, do confirm each other. Heaven could be just a step across the threshold into a whole new realm.
Heaven is a place where relationships are restored. Relationship with God and relationship with friends or family that have already gone on. Heaven is also a place where destiny is fulfilled. Our time on earth is short, but our time in heaven is forever. So destiny is started here. Destiny is fulfilled when we get to heaven.
Could it be that God provides these scientific insights and near-death experiences to demonstrate that He's real, that heaven is real, and that through knowledge and experience, our faith can be strengthened?
Many people with near-death experiences do tell us that they feel that God gave them this experience for a specific purpose, usually something that was going on in their lives. And some have also expressed the opinion that perhaps these things are divulged to human beings because God wants to certify for us or affirm that there's a life after death.
But the Bible describes heaven as a place of incomprehensible splendor, a place He has prepared for those who have believed on His Son. Can it be, as some have suggested, that it's all just a matter of cultural conditioning, an attempt to prove what's already believed? While the anecdotal evidence for a literal heaven continues to mount, Dr. Melvin Morse has taken his research to those least likely to be subject to cultural conditioning: children.
Hey
One of my earliest encounters with this phenomena was when I met a little girl named Katie.
Katie! Help her! Please, somebody help her!
I was looking down at her lifeless body, wondering if there was any way that she could be saved. The CAT scan showed massive swelling of the brain, no gag reflex, and an artificial lung machine was breathing for her. Then the family came in the room and asked if they could pray for her. I thought that they didn't understand that she was certain to die. They held hands around her bed and they began to pray. 3 days later, Katie made a full recovery.
God, we don't know what to do here.
So not long after her remarkable recovery, she came to see me for a follow-up examination. She clearly remembered me resuscitating her. In fact, I was amazed at what she could remember.
Katie stunned the doctor by identifying not only him, but a physician that had been working with him as well. She even knew which one of them came into the room first.
I remember very clearly that throughout her resuscitation, her eyes were closed. In fact, she was profoundly comatose the entire time that we were working on her. And I thought to myself, what is going on here?
His curiosity fully piqued, Dr. Morse asked her what she remembered about being in the swimming pool. Her answer gave him another shock. Her innocent response was, "You mean when I met Jesus and Heavenly Father?"
She didn't say anything more at the time. Maybe it was the shocked look on my face, maybe she was embarrassed, but I brought her back for a follow-up interview. And at that time, she told me more of the details when she was taken up to heaven. She said that Jesus told her that it was time for her to go home. And she said, no, I want to stay here in heaven, and I'm having fun. And he then asked her, but don't you want to see your mother? And at that point, she returned to what we call consciousness.
Did Katie actually get a glimpse of heaven? Few would argue that children like Katie have the capacity to make up such unique and detailed stories. Katie's experience certainly has similarities to many of the other NDE stories. But do all or any of these near-death experiences bring us any closer to a testimony of our own about the truth of heaven? Based on the testimony of those who say they have been there and come back, both heaven and hell are very real places. In the meantime, various sciences are testing the concept of life after death and the location of heaven against the theorems of quantum physics. While the most comprehensive and far-reaching of all modern studies states unequivocally that it can now be stated with certainty that life continues, the only question that remains is, will the evidence be believed? When Christ was on earth, he performed miracles in order to confirm who he was. He raised Lazarus from the dead. He changed the water to wine. With a touch, he healed those with leprosy and brought sight to the blind. By the power of his word, he calmed the storm and walked on the surface of the Sea of Galilee. In John 20, verses 30 and 31, we read, Jesus did many other miraculous signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. I trust you enjoyed our special look at the evidence for heaven. Perhaps it's strengthened your faith and even given you a greater understanding of heaven that will help you better share its reality with others. I think we would agree that heaven is not just a fantasy sprung from a fanciful imagination. Heaven is real. As one of our experts testified, perhaps more real than where we now stand. If heaven is real, then it's true that its dark alternative must also be real. Then perhaps the most important question of all is the question of your eternal destiny and where you'll spend it. And the amazing fact is, it's your choice. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jerry Rose.